Children of the night, what music they make.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Blood Splatter Chatter. I'll call this week 4 of 5 of FangFest 2025. And today, doing something a little different. Instead of a horror movie, got Peter and Eric, formerly of Two Geeks, Different Streets, to talk about Midnight Mass by Mike Flanagan. Peter and I, we did Haunting of Hill House a little while back. And I think we had planned on, I wanted to do them in order. But then when I was doing FangFest, I'm like, all right, we got to squeeze Midnight Mass in now. So this is only the second Mike Flanagan show that I've ever seen. I've only seen Hill House, which I absolutely adore. Movies, I love Hush. I love Oculus. I love Dr. Sleep. And I feel like there's another one that I love. Gerald's Game. Gerald's Game I love. And then other than that, I haven't seen anything that he's done. But what up, Peter? What up, Eric? Welcome back.
What is up, Verno? Thanks for having us back. Cheers.
Yeah, good to be back.
Now, Peter, I know
my beer. Oh no, it's a vampire beer.
Oh,
Peter, I know you are a fan. That's part of the reason why we've been doing these, because I know you are a big fan of Mike Flanagan and his series. But Eric, I did want to ask you first off. You had seen this 3 times, right? Yep. This is your 3rd time watching this. Are you equally as big of a fan of his series? Have you seen most of them?
I have not only seen Midnight Mass. I saw it last year, and I just was like, oh my god! Like it was kind of like watched it. A month later, I was like, I gotta rewatch this show. And then you asking me now, I was like, let's fucking do this. So yeah, it was just this show, and I always forget. Oh yeah, he makes other things, but I'm just like so captivated by this show.
Have you seen any of his movies? Like I'm trying to think how many of them are. Yeah, most of them are fairly mainstream. He's got a couple Netflix things. Stephen King's Dr. Sleep and Gerald's Game.
I've not. I don't believe so. I'm looking up his filmography right now, but I've not. I don't think I've seen anything outside of this.
I feel like for me and Eric's circle, he's more well known as a Netflix TV creator.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
I feel like he's one of the bigger names. Like that is a horror director, but it's because of the Flaniverse. It's because of what he does on Netflix. I feel like a lot of people saw Gerald's Game and Dr. Sleep because they were bigger property, or Gerald's Game, Stephen King thing.
Definitely Dr. Sleep, yeah.
But Peter, I wanted to ask you, since this is FangFest, what is? I know you're not the giantest horror guy, but what is like when you think vampire? What's kind of like the first thing that comes to your mind? What's your favorite vampire movie, or the one that you were introduced to maybe first as a child?
Same answer for both questions. Mom's Got a Date with a Vampire, Disney Channel original movie.
Oh man, I forgot about that.
Christina Payne, what up? Thanks for popping in. I've never even heard of it. My wife watched last night The Little Vampire.
It's
from 2000.
I know
the little. I know that was probably my first experience.
Yeah.
The Little Vampire with the kid from Stuart Little, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
She saw it was free on YouTube last night. She's like, "Oh my god." She's like, "It's FangFest. You guys should have done The Little Vampire."
We really should have done The Little Vampire.
Oh, I could have talked.
Aren't there like vampiric? There are vampiric cows in that one, right?
I have no idea. I did not watch it with her. They watched it together while I went and watched this for the second time. I watched this whole series, and then I watched like all of it. I watched all of it again last night and this morning. I was like, "Fuck it!" I needed to rewatch, especially since you guys were on your 3rd watch each. I'm like, I got to catch up a little bit. But what about you, Eric? Same answer or same question? Hopefully,
Peter just opened like a childhood vault of The Little Vampire and everything. I like read The Little Vampire and did you ever read Bunnicula, Peter?
Yeah, I did read Bunnicula.
A vampire bunny. Like a family takes in a vampire.
It's like
bunny.
Adopted into a house that already has pets, like an old like wise dog, like a snarky cat, and they can all like talk to each other. They don't talk to the humans, and it's
you guys never fail to make me feel old. I don't get it, but that's part of the reason, like why I put the count in the intro. from Sesame Street. While I have Count Chocula
Icon.
in there.
That's such a diverse intro of vampires.
Yeah, that was
I
everyone.
feel like vampires in general, they're like that. They're extremely malleable. You could do comedy, you could do horror, you could do drama, you can do love stories. Like
You
they
could
work
do a
in pretty much-
musical like from Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
right.
Oh.
Don't you guys think? I don't. This is a random thought, but don't you think Batman is like adjacent to the vampire, and that he is equally as malleable? I'm just thinking that because I always say
I literally
the same
made
thing
that
about-
comparison in my head. Yeah, they're like you could really put them in any genre, like or subgenre or any tone, and it works. Like if you could be like, it's a noir thriller, but there's a vampire, you'd be like, oh, like it's kind of like vampires. They're kind of like you're saying, they're one of the most malleable things in fiction. And
then overlap the two. Batman Beyond, he looks like a vampire.
Yeah. Right, and he's the bat, which is associated with the vampire. But
I was creature of the night, baby.
But why are we talking about vampires? Midnight Mass doesn't say the word vampire once.
You know what? I don't like that. I don't like that. It's a thing. It's a thing because you're either gonna like in the 80s, like vampire movies, because we'll be talking about Fright Night 85 on Thursday with Stu and Link. And basically in the 80s, vampires, like the genre had become so like old and like people were so used to it that you couldn't make a vampire movie without talking about vampire movies. Just like Scream for slashers in the 90s, you had to like everybody had to know the rules of vampirism. You had to know like the movie tropes and shit like that and comment on it to get away with it. But I feel like in the 2000s, like for instance, Walking Dead, they never say zombies.
Well, aren't they?
And
like,
in this,
not
they never
allowed
say
to?
vampires.
Is it a rumor? Or is it a fact that like Marvel?
That's just a rumor.
It's just rumor. Okay.
Yeah. Like there's no rights. Zombies is, I think anyone can say zombies. We're saying it right now. Verno's not
getting we just get shut down. my bank account is just instantly
tear it down.
But well, let's jump into it, man. Like I said, I just watched it for the first time. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I understand why so many people love it, but I definitely have my fucking issues. We'll get to it. The monologues are part of it, man. Peter, when we did Haunting of Hill House, like I love it. I think it's like the best show ever. Eric, you got to see it. Like it's really good, really scary, and it's like just you want to cry, you want to laugh. It's all like the heart that's in this one.
Yeah,
Haunting of Hill House has that, but maybe done better, I think, because there's a family unit, so it's easier to kind of connect to it. But anyway. The monologues get so fucking gag me with a spoon in both of them, but I think it's even worse in this.
I noticed it a lot more this time around. Maybe probably after talking to you about Hill House, I noticed monologue after monologue to the point where I was just like out loud being like, "Oh, here's another one."
Yeah, like I would laugh at it, and so, most of them, it's like if I was in the right mood. I'm like, yeah, I can be a sappy guy sitting there digging these kind of cringy monologues. But if I'm not in it and I'm hyper aware of it because we're reviewing it, then it becomes like Jesus.
But you know what? I think it's authentic to the small island mentality of like you just gotta sit there and listen to your neighbor talk about their shit.
And there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, it's also like maybe it's like a commentary on church. You just gotta sit there and listen to a bunch of people do a bunch of monologues back to back to back. Like this watch, it was kind of my background show. Like I was watching it, like sitting down watching it, but also doing other things. Like this morning, I was doing yoga. So that is kind of the perfect show for that when you have the base of it. You know,
if you've already watched it,
when you have the base of it, we got the baseline of it. But like,
I honestly,
you can tune in, hear the good parts, and then you tune out. You're like, okay, yeah, I'm done with that one.
Well, there's so much of it that it's just like listening to a podcast. You're going to sit down for 5 minutes and somebody's going to talk to you straight from usually not even a back and forth. It's just like I am speaking, and everybody's like written so well.
Yeah,
like too well.
So realized,
like nobody fucking talks like that. You guys are all poets on this island. This is a very literate island.
Everyone's so in touch with their emotions and can communicate in such a way. It's beautiful.
It is. Everyone's so goddamn philosophical.
No one skipped grammar class ever.
We got great teachers on that island.
Did you guys know when you first watched it that it was a vampire show?
No. My buddy said you got to watch Midnight Mass. He's like my friend who's my conduit to every horror thing. And he said, don't look anything up.
I think that's the way to do it. Just like if you're going to recommend it to someone, do not tell them it's about vampires. Because it's like, I don't know. When would you say you realize it's about vampires?
What would you say?
I don't think it's about vampires. They don't even mention vampires.
Right. Right.
It's
Well,
not creature.
to get back to the point I was going to say earlier, I don't like that. I don't like oh, in Walking Dead, we can't say zombie because you're kind of like the whole thing wouldn't exist if it wasn't for zombie cinema. And you're almost making it look like you're embarrassed of it and you don't want to be part of it. You know what I mean?
I always think for me, like it's more like an in-universe, like, oh, is this a universe where there's no vampire fiction whatsoever?
Right.
Like Dracula was never a classic novel, and for me, that has like I think about like, okay, what cultural impacts could that have? You know, like going down the line, like with it being based on a real person. Then I get too much in that. I'm like, why can't they just say vampire? Why are they throwing me for this loop?
Right.
Yeah,
this
it
alternate
certainly
realm.
It certainly makes like if you think too hard about it, it's going to take you out of it. But I also feel like it would just be so obvious to anyone in that situation. Like as soon as someone's skin catches on fire, it's like, oh, that's like there's nothing else but a vampire that happens to.
I mean, I guess the only other option to not say vampire is somebody's going to have to say it as a joke. What are you, a vampire or so? You know what I mean? Make some joke about it, make light of it, and both, I guess, have been done to death. So it's
and
like,
there's no like tongue-in-cheek reference to vampires. I don't think.
Yeah,
there's no tongue-in-cheek anything.
there's tongue in neck.
Hey, all right. So Eric, beginning with you, like, just give me your overall thoughts. What did you think of the rewatch, or your first watch, or just the show? In general?
I mean, it's a great rewatch show for one, because like you said, you should definitely go in blind. You should not listen to anything we say. We've already ruined it for you, but
I feel like everybody besides me had already seen this.
Yeah, so no, very true. Then when you rewatch it, like the shot where they're like overlooking the town is like it's very much more. You're like, oh, that's the vampire's point of view. Anyway, just on a rewatch, it's just such a brilliant show. It really just captures like a small town vibe. You just feel there instantly, even though like I've been to fishing towns. I've never grown up in a fishing town where you're like, oh my god, you're just there. And I don't know, it's just an excellent commentary on extremism, religion, like American communities. I feel like every time I've rewatched it, I've kind of viewed at what everyone represents in different ways, and like what everyone's opinions I've like felt differently. So it's kind of a beautiful show. It's a very like kind of makes you feel introspective type show,
right?
Like if you've experienced anything, like if you've encountered religion, even if you didn't grow up with it, just grew up around religious people or saw it, you're like, you just have thoughts about it in ways that like it engages you in ways that I think like other shows haven't, which is why I've rewatched it multiple times.
You're like the third person I've talked to that has watched it 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, 2 of my other buddies that I said I was doing this, like, oh, I've watched that thing like 3 times.
It's so good.
What about you then, Peter? Just your overall thoughts.
I absolutely love this show. I think this is my favorite Flaniverse show.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's tough to put it up against Hill House, and I still haven't seen Blind Manor, but I have a feeling Blind Manor's not gonna beat either. I love the twist, especially when you go in blind, and then like upon rewatch, knowing everything ahead of time, it really makes it almost more enjoyable. I feel like I can't decide whether like it's like I wish I could go back to going in blind, because that was also just such a cool reveal to be like, I've never considered the similarities between Christianity, Catholicism, and vampires.
Yeah,
it's
that's
like,
one of my favorite things about it is they kind of like bend the scripture to make it fit the vampire.
Yeah, like this is my body, this is my blood, eat from it, drink from it. It's like I was like,
spooky.
Eric and I grew up going to the same church.
I feel like that
has the same our religion class. Yeah. So
if I grew up Catholic, this would have hit me different, or going to Catholic church.
So I love the take on religion and like calling out the hypocrisy it can have. And they show the good side and the bad side. Like Bev Keane, that's the bad side. The mayor and his wife, the bad side. But then even it's not even a spoiler, like at the very end, the guy with the beard, Scourge.
Yeah.
He goes up to the other kid, the other altar boy, and they're just like, hey man, like I did some bad stuff. Like, do you forgive me? And like that's like the good side of the religion.
Right.
Yeah. So I think this show is a nice, it makes you think think religion and society.
And Kate Siegel kind of represents part of the good side.
You know how I feel about her.
Right.
Yeah. No, and like it's kind of like even like how Bev Keane uses it versus how the mayor uses it is very different. It comes from different places and like different. Like I it's just so interesting that it's just like everyone's relationship with religion. And like, it doesn't say it's good or bad. It just shows that it's a tool that can be used for good or evil, which is like why it's such a brilliant show, because it doesn't really take a stand. It just kind of shows like the power it has in so many different ways. And for me, this show, like, it's so perfectly paced. I feel like we're kind of in this era of like being obsessed with miniseries. And I've been like watching a lot of like old television, and I just feel like this is like a perfect representation of what a miniseries should be.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I feel like it's like you look at all the Marvel miniseries, they're just movies stretched out, or like some miniseries you watch, you're like, that could have been like a few seasons. They didn't have to like really condense that. But this is like, this was the perfect length for the story. It leaves me wanting more, but in the way that any well-written story does. And like, I have questions, but I feel like great religions, they're beautiful with mysteries.
God gives us mysteries. He gives us many mysteries, as Monsignor Pruitt would say. I that's my biggest thing, is that I wish I didn't know that it was a vampire show going into it. I was robbed by that. But as you were saying, Peter, it was kind of cool. Like, I could pick out the hints about the vampireness of it all, like leading up to episode 3.
Okay,
like,
so
I have in my notes at episode 3, things are getting vampy, but before that, there's just tiny, like almost just like aesthetic hints. Like, if you look at even the way that Riley, the main character, like I would call him the main character, his jacket, like the collar on his jacket is like an ode to Dracula.
I didn't
vampire. You know what I mean? Little subtle things like just how sexy he is as a human being.
Yeah.
Like, he's a fucking
he
vampire.
Was perfect for that role, and like he's in Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher in a different role. And personally, I was just like, I couldn't not see Riley. I couldn't see him as this moody, like recovered alcoholic who killed someone. Like, it was just, he was so good in that role. But also, since you went into this knowing it was a vampire, like, did the stuff in the first episode when you first see Monsignor Pruitt or Paul Hill come back, like with that giant case, and like you hear the knock, like, did you have any idea, like, oh, there's someone in there? Or when like the kids are like, oh, I saw something fly over us, must have been a huge pelican. Like, did any of that make sense to you?
That I did. When he saw the people go over the thing go over his head, I knew that was a vampire. The thing is that I didn't realize till the second watch, I never heard the knock the first time.
Yeah, same.
So the first episode was real. If you don't hear that knock, it takes a lot away from it. I feel like you
don't realize what was in the trunk until the third episode with the flashback.
Right. It's almost a little too subtle. I didn't realize that he had brought something back. And at that point, you hadn't met Pruitt yet. So you're not like as like keyed in on.
You haven't even seen his face. You just it's overhead, and you just hear the knock, and it's like, it doesn't even like cut closer to the chest to show you like that's where the noise came from. I don't know, kind of a weird editing choice.
I think it's almost too subtle. It's cool when you do notice it. It's like, oh, that's badass, but it's almost a little too easy to miss.
Well, I think it's one of those things, like, it's, if you're like looking for it, which if you know it's a vampire, you're like, ooh, that stands out. But you know, you don't really think about that noise. You're like, oh, it's the wind, you know, it's like how they think about it, you know. But if they knew they're in a vampire thing, they would have been like, holy shit, what was that noise?
I thought it was when I was watching it the second time, because again, I didn't even fully realize that he had brought him back in a case. I just missed the case altogether the first time. But when I did see it on a second watch, you see him getting off the boat with it. I'm like, what the fuck? What I thought it was, and I think maybe the idea that they were playing with is like in the Dracula myth, how Dracula has to sleep in the dirt of the land that he lives in. So you have to have like Transylvanian soil.
That's what they did.
I mean, so that's what it is.
There was, you see later when Bev comes over, the trunk is open, I think, or some. At one point, you see inside the trunk, and it's filled with a bunch of dirt.
Okay, I thought it was just dirt, that there wasn't a vampire in there, but you know what I mean. I just like, oh, it's just dirt. But the look of the vampire himself was one of the highlights of the whole thing for me.
Love his vibe.
So cool looking. And this is like, I just watched. You guys didn't happen to go see the new Nosferatu, did you? Either of you?
I did.
No, I need to.
Hell yeah, dude. Oh, I feel like we won't spoil anything. Although it's a movie that it's the same fucking ending as the one that happened in 1922. So
was 100-year-old beauty who killed the beast.
Yeah. Did you? Well, shit. While I'm on it, Peter, did you notice at the end, like the last episode of this one, you guys both remember how Kate Siegel, she's on the ground, and they've got the vampire is on her, and he's like sucking away the blood, and he goes to look away, and she's like, no, come back.
Yeah.
And she like just pulls his head
It's
back.
really intimate.
They do the exact same scene in the new Nosferatu.
I had the exact same thought.
Very cool. I thought that was really
awesome.
cool.
But like that's kind of like the whole. That's always been the thing about vampires, or most people choose that. It's like there's this intimacy, this like sexualness of like
they're hot.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's the other thing where there's like you kind of
Eric, you're noticeably aroused right now.
They're the only monster that you would maybe want to be. You could live forever. You could go back to your peak self. You could mesmerize people and make them love you and do what you want. You know what I mean?
What if you want to be a werewolf? What about werewolves?
Nobody wants to be a werewolf. That's the whole point of Twilight.
You're kind of a dick. Now, if you want to be a zombie, you're even got more.
Okay. Yeah, no, vampires are, and you're hot. You're just. I feel like once you become a vampire, like you're just guaranteed hot. I feel like I
want to be a mummy, so I always have toilet paper around.
Like, I mean, Kenneth Bird?
You guys ever watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer? Anytime a vampire, like Spike was literally so hot, the guy they wanted to kill him off the show. We're like, this guy's too hot. We can't get rid of him. He's too hot. He's too hot.
That sounds like it's more of an actor problem and not a vampire problem.
No, it was the writing. Oh, he was just a sexy guy.
Next Sunday, I'm doing a show on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. We're doing season 5, episode 1. Buffy versus Dracula. It's going to be me and Rockin' Robbie Billups talking Buffy, talking Dracula, and talking vampires.
Don't want to miss that one.
But since I have this up, Johnny Recaps, you little son of a bitch. What up, brother? Thanks for popping in, man. Kenneth Bird, Christina Payne, appreciate y'all. Let's just want to have your guys' thoughts on the cast. I'll start with you, Eric. Who's your favorite member of the cast?
I mean, we've said a lot of great things about Riley, and like really, Monsignor Pruitt, like what an incredible performance! Like so much, and incredibly on a rewatch. So many of the lines he says have double meanings when you know the truth. This incredible character, and who's the girl in the wheelchair again? I'm totally blanking.
I think her name's Lisa. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I just watched like on my phone the clip when she confronts Joe.
Oh, that was crazy.
Incredible. It's really, you know what? It's one of those shows it's like once I start talking about the characters, it's just like everyone's pretty incredible, you know? Like it's a perfect cast. It's kind of hard to say. I love Kate too. Bev is perfectly horrible. Like I can't tell. Like I can just tell you how amazing they all are. I can't really pick up.
Seriously, it's like give me 10 minutes to talk about every character.
Like as I'm looking at that picture, I'm like, they're awesome. Oh my god, love their arc. They have that great scene. Like,
well, it's part of the reason why I put it up because I feel that's kind of the best way to kind of even discuss it because this, when you have a TV show, everybody has so much time to each character. Where they all have their own little thing, and they're all almost. It's like a novel where you almost have multiple lead characters.
Yeah,
like when Kate Siegel, when it's about her, she's the lead character for that time, and
every single one has their own different experience with religion and God.
Yeah. I guess that's part of that is what doesn't connect to me as much because I feel like I don't struggle with my thoughts on God that much.
Because you're going to hell.
Well, if I did do it, I did it years and years ago, and it's just like I don't know. I found most of the monologues when it would come down to them talking about religion, I kind of got where they were going within the first half of the monologue or whatever, and then you're just sitting there waiting for them to finish it the fuck up many times. Like even like Kate Siegel, I love her as a human being and as an actress. But like, there's moments in this where it's like she was almost way too corny and way too cheesy for me.
Oh yeah. Well, no, I mean, I'm not a religious person. Like Peter said, we were raised in a church, but we're very much a Riley now without killing someone. We're just like, we took a step back. But
still drink equally as much.
But yeah, it's one of those things with religion. It's kind of like I feel like it's on point though, because when people talk about like, oh, this meaning and everything, people who aren't it, like, or like if you're not in it, you're just kind of like, yeah, no, cool, like whatever. And it was like,
right,
no, I have several passages to quote to explain what I feel about it. Like, which is a little like hokey and mundane. It's like it's the product,
It's one of the best parts about what is it? Bev is like the crazy religious lady, pretty much.
Yeah, she's the one who selfishly uses religion,
right,
for her own.
That's what I was gonna say. She has a quote from scripture to justify everything that anybody does throughout the whole show.
She's a selfish person who just knows like what part of a good book to quote to make her look good. Because like, if I'm good to the book, I'm good in general. Or like,
she could spin anything.
Oh, she's a great spinner.
She should work for a news fucking. She should be an anchor on a
for real.
But what about you, Peter? If you had to pick a favorite, or a few of them?
Yeah, well, I love the Sheriff TV's Raul Coley,
he's
Mr.
great.
Fashion.
So hot.
He's so great.
He's pretty much dude. I should have sent this to you guys before, so you could have looked at him on the show with this in mind. But he's basically brown skinned John Krasinski. He looks exactly like him,
like a Quiet Place John Krasinski.
Yes,
like that beard,
yeah, I see that.
Never noticed that.
Oh man, I wish he did a Jim face with the camera, being like, "Can you believe it?
He's
Can you
actually
believe what my son's getting into?"
He was a frequent guest on a YouTube channel I watched a lot that is no longer around. It was called Funhouse. If anyone's familiar with it, part of Rooster Teeth. Anyway, so like I knew about him that he was like this small actor from like iZombie. And then when I watched this show, I saw him. I was like, "Oh shit! Like this is a big deal for him."
Right.
And then he got into followed the House of Usher. So I was like, it was really exciting to watch him like grow through this. And he's really good in this show.
Oh, I thought he was great. I thought he was
great.
I think they dealt with a lot of like sensitive issues.
Yeah.
Like almost to the point where it's like, oh Jesus Christ, would you guys have a checklist? You had to make sure you hit everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like
bummer of a show.
The relationship with this Muslim guy on this mostly Catholic island was probably the most sensitive thing that they had to deal with, and I thought it was the one that they dealt with the best.
Yeah, especially that part in the school where he's like, we Muslims, we love Jesus. Like we love Christians, although he can't pronounce Christians right.
I love the way he says Christians. That's in my notes. I'm like, I'm gonna start saying that. He's right. That way it makes way more sense.
But I love him. And then I think next would have to be Father Paul, Hamish Linklater, I think his name is.
Yeah.
He's just so good. And have you guys ever seen him in anything else?
No, I was going to ask you. I looked it up.
I think I have.
I don't see him in any of the other Flanagan, right?
He's not. He's not in any other Flanagan thing, but I knew him from this this comedy series that Robin Williams was in before he died. It was like the last show Robin Williams was in, and Hamish was part of it. It was an okay. Freaking Buffy was in it too.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Weird. The crazy ones.
Full circle. The crazy ones. Yep.
Yeah.
I've
seen him in Legion. That's all I know him from.
He was in Legion. Yeah,
he was in Legion.
Can't believe
I'm
I
looking
forgot
up
that.
right now.
He's great. To me,
he gets like burned on half his body.
He's the highlight of the show, like in so many ways. Obviously, he gets the best. He's got the best role. He's got the most to do. But if you put like a lesser actor in that role, this show sucks.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Which is maybe why we don't see him in other Flanagan stuff. I feel like he's, I don't know, maybe not above it, but like it's just such a good actor.
Right.
I mean, he does so many of the monologues you were talking about, and he sells them so well. But like, I'm
never annoyed by any monologue he does.
Yeah,
he pulls it off.
That's what I'm saying though. Like he's doing monologue on monologue, and like, wow, I never bored.
Yeah. So that's the thing with his character. It's like he's a con man.
Yeah,
like it's. I mean, that's
snake oil salesman, baby.
Exactly. That's how I view his character. Is like the con man side of religion. Like he comes to town and he sells you on this new product, but a lot of times he's not lying. Like he's rewatching it, you can tell like he's choosing his words carefully, and he only lies on a couple of times, and he will like call himself out on that, like talking about Joe Colley's sister. Right. But other times he's like, don't worry, like Father Pruitt, he's good. Like he's gonna be okay. Yeah. Like you're in good hands.
He's a con man that doesn't know that he's a con man.
Yeah, he conned himself, baby. He's a ultimate salesman. Yeah. No, he's like truly, and like he doesn't really confront what he really wanted until the very end.
Right.
Whereas, and oh my god, what an end that is.
Yeah.
No, it's so funny because I've been watching. I was telling you, I started watching The Sopranos when I started rewatching this, and the most like Italian, like kind of like lighthearted, real high energy show, and then this is the most dour, like Irish Catholic show. I'm like, yeah, this explains a lot about me. But
so
no, he's incredible. Like I can't, and like you're saying on a rewatch, everything like Peter's saying, everything he says is like, ooh, that's
I love
true.
the
But
way
not the way you
he well,
think.
he's like two different characters. He's the guy
Mhm.
when he's not the preacher, and then he's like his preaching performance is insane. Like I love he like can't control the volume of his voice. Like it's just random ass words will get really loud, but that's a preacher thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like these attention grabbing moments. He's incredible in the show. What do you guys mention, Joe Collie? I really
my
like
God.
him. He's
Anytime he
looks-
shows up in
Yeah.
a Flanagan show, he's gonna have a kick-ass performance. In Hill House, he's got
Yeah.
a great monologue.
I mean,
he gets away he gets away with a lot of stuff that he pulls off the monologues better than most people. He
So,
looks
like the uncomfortable
exactly-
monologues.
He looks just like the bouncer, our head bouncer at the club that I used to work at, and I couldn't deal with it the whole time. They show his house, I'm like, yep, that's what his house looks like too. They're like the exact
my
same
God.
human being.
Dude,
But
if you want to get me on anyone's side, like have them have a dog that dies. I'm like, that's a good man. That's a
I
good
forgot
like,
about that, and I was like not
Yeah.
looking forward to that episode.
That's the only part like that actually makes me uncomfortable. Like,
Which
that
it was
dog!
100% Bev, right?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Oh, yeah.
You. They never
Definitely.
they never like prove it either way.
Well, there's a
They did
shot of
show-
someone handing the dog a plate of food, and I'm pretty sure it's the
Oh.
same. The person, it's a woman wearing a long skirt, and I'm pretty
Okay.
sure it's the exact same skirt Bev is wearing.
They show just right before that, they
Mm.
have the parents of the girl that he paralyzed in the hunting accident. They look up and they like nudge each other and they're like, he's here. But then their reaction to the dog getting poisoned, they seem pretty innocent about it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
God,
I think
Joe's-
it's absolutely Bev. Like
Joe's
no
story
doubt.
is just so sad, though.
Yeah.
Oh, very.
It's such a miserable show. Yeah, no, I just think that like there's no doubt. It's just more of a question of how she did it.
Mhm.
But I didn't know that thing about the plate. That's interesting. I
Me
just
too.
assume that she like because they also don't clarify how long it would take. It's not necessarily an instantaneous poison. You know, It could take a
Actually,
while. Is
in
it? Oh,
the
did they say
last-
this?
well, in the second to last episode, when everyone's drinking it, it's pretty
Yeah.
instantaneous.
Good point.
Oh yeah, it's the same poison. Maybe
Yeah,
dogs
compound
different, I don't know.
1080.
But
Compound 1080.
speaking of Bev,
Cheers.
Bev Keen, she's pretty much playing like a very stereotypical Stephen King character where you've got the hyper religious person, but she's like
Yeah.
the best version of it ever.
Also,
She's
kind of like
a-
a Nurse Ratchet.
Yeah, she's got a touch of that. I think I remember it was the second episode, and I told my wife, I'm like, I think she's gonna end up being good by the end. I'm like, I think she's got it in her. And then by the end, I'm like, God, was I fucking wrong?
Wow, I was so wrong. I love her ending. I don't know if we want to talk about the ending. Of the show
No,
yet.
spoil
Yeah,
everything. Yeah,
yeah.
I
say
just
whatever you
like.
want.
I don't know if it's. I feel like the conversation Riley's mom has with Bev, where she's like, "You're not a good person. God does not love you." Like, I think that like hit her.
Yeah.
And then at the end,
Yeah,
that beautiful juxtaposition of like the Muslims praying to the sunrise,
yeah.
making peace with their God, and she's there, and she can't make peace. She starts frantically digging in the sand, trying to
Digging
hide
a
from the sun.
hole. I
She's
love
not ready to meet her God because she knows
Yeah.
her
She
God
knows
does
she's
not
a
love
bad
her.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
no,
so
and
good.
and like Riley's parents, who like I would say are pretty innocent people at all of this, like they also like embrace they're singing in the end, they embrace their choices and like that
Right.
they'll like in the next chapter they'll like meet a good thing. But yeah, I love just when Ben was digging, I was like, yeah, dig, you fuck, I hate you, you're the worst, you're
Well,
the
so
worst,
here's
you're
my
gonna die.
question: did everyone on that island know they were gonna burn once the sun came up?
I think so.
Because no one's
Yeah.
talking about vampires. Some people just got woken up in the middle of the night and turned into a vampire.
Right.
They have no idea that, like, you're gonna.
That's
I don't know.
true.
It's just to me. I have a feeling some people are just singing and enjoying the moment, and then just what the fuck?
The one
The
guy
vibes were good. The
that
vibes
killed-
were good.
he's like, I think I killed my wife and my kids. It's like, Jesus. Like it really like
Yeah.
the series, it goes places at times that the rest of the series doesn't feel like it would go. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
yeah,
pretty PG-13 for the most of it. And then you get some crazy kids dying in front of their parents moments. The church, like when everything goes insane at the church, was awesome. Like that was so fucking
That
bad.
was
I wish there
insane.
was more. Like I wish in the last episode, because all the vampire shit that we get kind of happens at the end of the 6th episode and the
Yeah.
beginning of the 7th episode. And then there's a lot of just like, talking about the end of it and everything. But I wish it would have just almost went all out, like harder with the vampire shit.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Like, I wish there was it was more of a like survive the night while all these vampires are out hunting.
Right. Yeah. Well, I thought it was gonna end up being like 30 Days of Night, like the whole time. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that one, but it's kind of treated.
That's a great movie. I
like
love that movie.
It's like a zombie movie almost.
Yeah.
Like we've secluded a group of people, and the vampirism or the zombieism is spreading, and it's taking people out one by one. And it did that really quick. But the other element that it had, and Eric, I know you're a fan of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. There's a moment in episode 5 where I think it's Kate Siegel's character. She knows what's going on. She's hip to everything. And she comes back and she sees the dude with the long beard outside the church. And she's looking at him like she doesn't know if she can trust him. And I'm like, oh, that's a really good element. Like, that's looking around and not, are you a vampire? Who is a vampire and who isn't? And I'm like, oh, that's cool. But they didn't really play with it at all. I wish they would have.
I thought it was. I know that moment. I thought it was more like she knew right there. Like, oh, he's putting up the sign. Like, there's church tonight at midnight when the sun is down. So it's clearly obvious that he's part of this.
Right. No, well, that's what I'm saying. But you can't tell. He doesn't have the fangs coming out. But it's like just suspicion and paranoia. That paranoia could have been like a major element of the whole thing.
It definitely is one of those shows that's like 0 to 100. Like, no one knows about the vampire things, and Riley finds out and tells Kate that's just 100. Then it just all blows up. It wasn't there wasn't like, and I feel like a lot more like ongoing shows do this, where it's like, oh, we know it's happening, but we need to prove it's happening, and we can't confront them directly because we know what they can do to us. Like, there wasn't that much. There wasn't really much of that. But I feel like that's kind of what we want, like a chapter of like Kate knowing and figuring out how to do it, rather than just like Kate knows and she preps and then it just all blows up and she takes the L for the team. She takes the L. Like,
well, kind of along those lines, and this is like another thing with the writing. And I don't know, on the second viewing, I wasn't sure. I don't know if I'm right about this or if there's a right or wrong, but my issue was that Pruitt at the end, he just kind of has a revelation all on his own. None of our characters caused him to have this revelation.
Yeah.
He sees what he's done, which is the thing that happens in movies. You see what actually happened, what your plan really caused, and you just figure it out. And then he has a quick turn all of a sudden. And I don't know, is that good writing or is that bad writing?
I think we kind of touched on that already. It's the con man who's like, he's such a con man. He believes in his own lies. He believes in his product. And now that his product is out there and he sees, well, also I think it's because he got shot in the head and like, and then Bev took over because he was out.
Right.
Yeah. If he had more control to lead the people, it might have ended differently.
Right.
But like Bev took over, and then also I think he wasn't predicting just how violent things were going to get.
I also think the thing that his former lover said to him kind of also sobered him up quite a bit.
Right, that's a good point.
Because like, and that talk especially, it's like he was clearly like dementia ridden and afraid to die, and then avoided it in his mind forever and wanted to spread that gift to everyone. But now he's seeing the product, and then she's pointing out, it's like, nah, bro, you gotta die. And like, he fucked it up for that entire island except for 2. Like, that was also, speaking of shows that like it seems counter to like it gets darker than you think it would. Like, I did not think it'd just be 2 people that survive.
I know.
Like, I really thought Kate was gonna make it, like the pregnant woman was gonna make it, but nah.
And then the one can't even feel her legs then. Like, what an ending.
But that was like, it's also supposed to be a good thing that she can't feel her legs. It means it's wearing off.
I know. I thought it was like almost like a punchline, like almost this really twisted black humor punchline of an ending. I can't feel my legs. And
I kind of took it like that as the first time. I was like, they got nothing out of this. Like,
I have a question for you guys.
But then I thought, I was like, oh, the vampire's dead. That's what it confirmed.
Right.
Yeah.
Which we never saw. We never saw the vampire die.
Well, okay.
We felt it in her legs.
Does that just mean, because there's all sorts of different vampire lore, but if Pruitt was the one to make her a vampire and he dies, so he's like her sire, he dies, then she'd be able to feel her legs. Well, or is it the winged one that's the winged one. He dies? I don't know.
He never made Liza a vampire.
Oh, right. He half vamped her. He microdosed her with vamp
Microdose,
juice.
exactly.
Yeah.
With the vampire lord's blood, not his own blood.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's his blood. So like once he's gone, all of his power
point.
is gone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you guys, how do you guys feel about the use of like prosthetics to make everyone look older?
Hate it.
Hate it. Yeah.
Because right away I could tell, like, oh, I knew that's
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm being the one that's like saying all the negative things, and I apologize if I'm annoying people out there, but as soon I knew every fucking thing that was going to happen other than Riley dying and other than the drinking the Kool-Aid bit. You know that's the old man. You know that Pruitt is. You know that the Sarah's mother. You know she's coming back. You can tell that Riley's parents, they're gonna get younger because they're looking all old and coughing. It's a really predictable show for the most
definitely. Yeah, no, it's definitely not like I was thinking more like, oh, is there gonna be like a big flashback, like 2 flashback episodes? That's why everyone looks old. Like the first time I watched it, that was my thought. But what was I gonna say? I don't even remember what I was gonna say. It's old people are kind of gross, so I'm glad they didn't hire any real old people.
it made sense for some characters, and like I guess it makes sense to show just like how well they're de-aging. But like, yeah, the Sarah's the doctor, right? Sarah's mom is like a comic, doing like a comical old person impression.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was it completely took me out of it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, and this is my other biggest complaint, and I just fucking get it out of the way now while we're on the
subject.
Get it out. When that shit goes down, the craziness at the church, and then Pruitt is sitting there with Sarah's mother, the former old lady, for a minute, because now she's got full black hair. She's just been killed by the vampire, so I think she's back to her best state. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, who the fuck is that? I didn't even know who she was. And then it took me a minute. I'm like, oh, okay, that's Sarah's mom. And I'm like, oh my God, she's the whole reason that this show happened. It's all about her. And they never took the time to give her any fucking characteristics at all.
Yeah.
Like, they never, like, they had a few episodes that she'd been back and being normal, and they never wrote her anything.
Not until
I don't think it's all
episode.
it's all about Pruitt, and it involves his feelings for her.
It's all about her. She's the whole reason.
She is the whole reason also, but it's like I get what that's a really good critique, because I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
But like, it's Pruitt is this really complex character, and he kind of fought with it, but then the mom, even when she's back to her senses, is just kind of like, well, we made our choices. Like she clearly like lived with another man and lied to him for his entire life, and it's like, and it's just maybe that's why she's so simple, because she's just simply like, that's what it is, man. Like, and that's kind of like Pruitt's that classic. Also, speaking of like cliches, like I was a little bit like, oh, it's a classic. He doesn't want to die, like that bullshit, which is like what is this, Voldemort? But it's just he's kind of overthinking these things that are simple. You live, you get old, then you die, and the next generation takes over, and he's making it this complex thing he's trying to fight against. And she's one of those people who's just like, no, I was cool with it. Like I just lived with it, So maybe like her simplicity is kind of the point.
I like it, but I hate it at the same time.
Fair,
You're right.
Fair.
What up? What up, B? Appreciate you popping in, my brother. I know Eric's a huge fan of this show. Probably, Eric, don't go back and listen to any of the negative things I've said leading up. Mostly positive, I promise. I feel like we touched on most of it, but how do you guys think, just like as far as the way it handled vampirism and just like the horror? I feel like there was a couple real, like the one jump scare where the vampire jumped at Riley was like one of the best jump scares ever. Yeah. Like it was so good. It got me so good.
Also, the reveal of the vampire when like Father Pruitt is like pacing in the rec center back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's kind of obvious, but still it like gets you. And then every time someone looks out the window, and this happens multiple times, like Kate sees it, the sheriff sees it, Riley sees it too. Like you just see like in the shadows, you see the eyes, and then they move, and it oh my God, especially with the sheriff when he turns the light off, and then you see the vampire.
That's another really
But
good.
I wonder, like, okay, so one question I have about the vampire is like, is it telepathic communication between him and Father Pruitt, Or did the vampire just want to wear the trench coat and fedora?
They speak through God.
I was wondering it too. Like you got to think where he met that vampire. It was in Jerusalem and shit. So like maybe he's already religious, or he's, you know what I mean?
I assume
know.
it was that vampire was stuck in that cave for centuries, and it wasn't until that sandstorm that it opened up.
Oh,
that was my assumption.
I do have like questions of like why was this vampire just so down to go to a small island in America?
Because he's been stuck in a cave.
Well, yeah, but then he's just gonna like, why doesn't he just fuck off to his own thing?
Well,
like,
here's my theory. Because they never mention vampires, and they talk about like a live virus that makes you anemic. No, what was the word they used?
Makes your blood fucking ignite in sunlight.
Yeah, makes you want to like eat iron and stuff. It's like that's like part of the virus is to like you want to spread it across the world. So like the fact that you're given this opportunity to come to a new area that doesn't know about you. Maybe Jerusalem, they were like more prepared for vampires. I don't know.
Yeah. It just seems like this is you speaking to the whole like you want to spread it. It's like you're right next to like one of the most densely populated areas like in the world. Like I feel like you just go there. But it's just one of those things. Is also with these kinds of, I feel like Peter, definitely you question rules and like logic of like mythical stuff and like TV shows and comics more than me. But like this is one of those things I didn't really think about that much on the first watch. Is like it's just a vampire and it just kind of follows its own rules. But then when you do think about it, you're like, why? Like what was their bond? What was their agreement? Like what was their deal?
Right. Yeah, and also like how smart is this vampire? Like he doesn't talk.
Yeah.
At one point he goes shush, which is like a big deal. It shows you that he can like communicate and
he can echo voices.
There's not much else.
You can echo voices, yeah.
That was random.
He's like the Predator. Yeah, he can like mimic voices, so he clearly like there's some knowledge. That's the thing. He's a very vague Mr. Vampire. Like I don't know. He's got a great look though, so we excuse it. Yeah, he's just got a great look. But yeah, it's definitely one of those ones if you really want to. When I like first watched it, I was like, oh, God, I gotta do a YouTube deep dive and watching all the YouTube essays, and none of them are really about the logic, like the rules, the logic, and the plan of the vampire and Pruitt. Like it never really breaks it down like a comic would break down a Marvel movie about like the rules and logic.
Well, I don't know many other.
It's just about the meaning of the story and like, oh, this represents this and blah, 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 blah.
Well, yeah, I don't know many other vampire lores that require resurrection to turn.
That's true too. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
which was cool. It really surprised me when they had the whole drink the Kool-Aid moment. I was like, okay, I kind of thought it was awesome, but then I didn't. It's hard to like. I'm like, really? I didn't believe that most of these people were gonna drink the Kool-Aid, but I guess who the fuck would?
How many miracles did these?
Yeah, no, I know. Like it just seems like such a crazy thing, but it's like people do it. It really does happen. This is the Jonestown.
It's cold. Yeah, it's like, and to be fair, like they had real proof outside of the other cults. Like he had like real tangible proof. You become like, I don't fucking know. I saw someone walk, and like everyone's getting younger. Might as well just drink it. If I'm gonna drink it once, it should be here.
Which that was a great moment. Like when the girl got up out of the wheelchair. Yeah. That was one of my favorite moments that I didn't see that coming. Looking back on it, I probably should have, just the fact that she was in the wheelchair. But I had written down like some of the other stuff they did cool with the vampire, the vampireness of it all. The way that first of all, just the way it actually looked when the vampires would get in the sunlight.
Yeah.
Like when Riley gets blown up, or even just like when they touch it a little bit, extra smoky, like more intense and violent than a lot of movies are or shows.
Riley's death was amazing.
That was the best part of the whole thing. Shocked me.
God. Yeah, just because like the way it ends on one episode, like the sun coming is like kind of and for a second you're like, maybe he's good. Then like you go and he's just like, no, he is not. He's a skeleton. And I think it's like so poetic that the most like anti-religious character in the series has the most Christ-like death. He sacrificed himself to show Kate the truth. And and then like if Kate didn't learn that, she would have like prepared or cut the vampire's wings. He does like a purely like he knows he's gonna die kind of thing, and he just does a purely selfless thing. When for a second you're like, is he gonna kill this girl? Is he gonna eat this girl? But he's purely a selfless character, and he's the least religious out of all of them, which like is an interesting piece of commentary too.
Yeah, that's a good point.
The way that they edited it too. Where remember how it goes? They like flash and it's him and the person that he killed, and it's like this really serene moment. Then it's a hard cut to Kate Siegel screaming, fucking seeing the devastation. That was great. To me, that was like that was like, oh my God, this series is getting really fucking good moment.
And that's only episode 4, right?
Right. The first 2 episodes start out pretty slow, but I was prepared for it because Hill House starts out slow.
Yeah.
Like the first episode of Hill House, you're introducing a ton of fucking characters and you're setting stuff up. And that's what they did in this one. And Flanagan wrote and directed the first 2 and the last 2. And the ones in the middle, he didn't write and direct. And I kind of feel like they're some of the best ones.
The 3 and 4, 3, 4, and 5, I think might be the best episodes.
3 is maybe my favorite, where we're learning about Pruitt going like how, you know what I mean? We're getting most of the answers.
I think 4 might be my favorite. I mean, as much as we said about the monologues in this show, the AA meetings monologues were so good.
Yeah.
Like those conversations about religion and like using religion and all that stuff were so good, especially when Joe joins and it's like he's like, I told you to catch on. I loved his delivery of that line.
I really think it was Kate Siegel. Like some of her monologues were the hardest ones for me to choke down. But I'll say at the same time, this is another thing I loved about what they did, like the vampirism, is her losing her baby was so cool and unique and just a weird ass thing and really sad. Like if you had told, like before I had a kid, and this shows you what kind of piece of shit I was, I would have been less like empathetic about it. Like you didn't even know the kid, you're only pregnant a couple months. But now that, I've been through it, it's like, that would be devastating. You know what I mean?
No, obviously. Kind of. It's so shocking that she dies. Like, you really think she's like, because first you're like, oh, Riley's the main character, blah, blah. And you think he's at least going to make it to like the second to last episode. Then he's like, nope. And then, Kate, and because she's a pregnant woman, you just assume like the story, like, especially it being like having so many parallels to religion, it's gonna be like she's gonna make it out okay, but no, it's not.
Right.
But she's also like the reason why everyone, like, it's just so interesting because like even when she's dying, she's thinking of other people. And I was thinking about the scene where the daughter can walk, and it's like you have to go to the mainland and show this to people, and they have like a fair reason, but the first they're like
no, they do not have a fair reason.
No, they do because they don't have enough money to do appointments and stuff. Like that was a somewhat fair reason. Like we're done, we're good. But they also were like, well, should we really question this? And then she's like, well, this can help other people. And the fact like they can't push that aside. Whereas like, they would preach about that stuff, like helping others, even though like they've had a miracle, let's share it with other people. Like, no, let's keep it to ourselves. And I gave it a little more slack because they were like, we like really are not making it the kind of thing. But it's like, it does say something that they kept it entirely private. Whereas like Kate, like, it's just interesting. She's dying and, no one would be like, giving her shit. She's like, nah, just embrace it, just let go. But she's still thinking of other people and like cutting the wings. And it's just really interesting, the contrast of, and she has a good relationship with religion too. And it's like interesting selfish people, religious people. They're not mutually exclusive, but they're not mutually inclusive. It's like a real commentary on like how people's morality and their religious belief collides. And like makes
what it makes me think of, like in the show. First off, SoCal Daniel, son of a bitch. What up, brother? Says his favorite miniseries, he believes. In the show, oh fuck, I might have forgot what I was gonna say. Oh no, in the show they make it clear that once you become a vampire, it doesn't necessarily change you. You still are who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It doesn't change who you are.
Like the parents don't change.
Well, it could be the same thing about religion. Like you becoming religious doesn't change who you are. You can do good with it or you can do bad with it. It's up to you.
Right.
And also alcoholism. Like,
right.
People say like when you get drunk, you're not changing who you are. You're becoming, you are who you are. Just
right.
Oh man, so many good parallels.
Well, there's another in the movie we just did last week, which everyone should go check out that review on Martin, movie from 1977. In that movie, there's a church and it's in a dying city. Everybody's poor as shit that's at the church, and the church is asking them for money. And it's like it's a way that the church is vamping, like sucking the lifeblood out of the people. And it's the exact same thing kind of going on in this one, the church is asking for donations. Everybody's poor as shit. The oil spill happens, so the economy is down, but the church is still asking for money. And
Wow.
it's
Interesting.
right. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. Heavy
That's
parallels.
the thing. There's like so many cool layers to the show and different perspectives, and I feel like everyone I've talked to about the show always like puts a different spin on it for me. I'm like, oh, I didn't really think about it that way because it just has so many layers and textures.
It's a real thinker.
Can you
He's a real
up?
thinker.
Can you stand up, Peter, so I can see you under that? No, just joking. He's saying I want Flanagan to go back to his own work rather than adaptations. He likes the adaptations, but love this though. Just speaking on that real quick, what he has coming up, might as well say it now because it makes sense. He's doing nothing that he wants to see him do. He's doing everything as somebody else's work. He's doing an Exorcist movie in 2026. It's not going to be a sequel to Exorcist Believer. It's supposed to be a radically new take on the franchise. Radical, which I honestly think, seeing this and seeing his relationship with religion, he's struggled with it. I think if you're going to make an Exorcist movie, you need to be someone that has struggled with religion at one point. He's doing Life of Chuck, which is a movie in 2025. That is it's a Stephen King adaptation. It's got Tom Hiddleston in it. And the loose plot that I know of, it's like the reverse of someone's life. Like the movie starts at the end of Chuck's life and then reverses backwards through it.
It's like Benjamin Button.
Right. Yeah. Good point. And then he's doing so much. He's doing a Carrie miniseries for Amazon Prime.
I kind of would. That's the one that I'm like, okay. Hell yeah.
Fuck yeah. I love Carrie so much, and I think he could pull it off. I don't think it needs to be a series, but I can see it being a good
You can
series.
do a lot of cool things like with the series though, because I feel like we have so many movies that's interesting. Whereas everything else I don't really care about. So like I don't know the Stephen King book. So like Carrie I like. So I'm like, ooh, this guy's take on Carrie.
They need to they say fuck it and just do it. Have the person that played Bev Keane in this play Mrs. White. She is perfect.
Yeah.
She's a better Mrs. White than Mrs. White in this. Damn. But and then the other thing that I know that he's doing, and I can't believe how much he's doing, it scares me because to me this is the most important property like ever. He's gonna fuck it, or I don't know. He might not fuck it up, but I'm afraid of it. Is Stephen King's Dark Tower series?
Really?
Oh.
Yeah. So he's doing that. I think that's also for Amazon Prime.
That's gonna be a TV show.
Yeah,
it has to be a TV show.
Gotta be. Have you guys read it?
No, I have not.
I read the first book. Like I read one of the audiobooks, so I don't really know what happened. But I'm like, this is cool, man. And if anyone if I have any friends that like read it, I'm like, tell me everything about this because I don't understand. So,
it's great. I mean, people that
need a show so I can understand.
Yeah, if you're a fan of it, then you're a mega fan of it.
Yeah,
like it's his. It's
like One Piece.
I would say.
Yeah, it's like book One Piece. If you're in it, you're in it.
All right. What did I want to do before we get out of here? I think we've pretty much hit everything that I wanted to hit. Yeah, I think we fucking hit it.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about the show. We could go for hours, but it's also like let's get some scripture out. Let's compare.
Amen, brother. Amen.
Nobody wants to monologue before we wrap it up. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, when I became a police officer,
oh god,
it was right after 9/11.
Oh, I'll tell you here. I might as well I'll say that because I made a fucking list, and most of these things, because I feel like this came out in 2021. This is the peak of the hyper politicization of everything. I don't know if that's a word.
Yeah, no,
but everything was so fucking politicized at that time.
Yeah.
And I really do feel like he went down a checklist. What is everything that a left-leaning audience would want to hear me criticize? Let's make sure we do it. So Catholics, bad. Muslims, good. Which I guess I'm being a little loose on that.
Gun violence.
He showed the good parts of the church. Gun violence.
Alcoholism,
the
dead dogs,
environmentalism with the oil spill.
Abortion, maybe.
Abortion.
He killed a bunch of cats just to make them feel bad.
Do you think that was? Now, I would say if that is a comment on abortion, that's the best comment that he made. Not because it's the point that I agree with the most. I agree with almost all the fucking points, but it's the one that he made it like, oh shit, is that about abortion? Rather than the character sitting there talking about it. You know what I mean? Like the bit with Kate Siegel losing the baby. I don't know. It was a man's decision that caused the loss of her baby. which is it's like the inverse. You know what I mean? It's like she didn't.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that was a comment on abortion of some sort? And if so, what is the comment? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what the comment would be. I kind of think it is. It's like, or it's a it wasn't her choice. Yeah, it was the man's choice. Yeah.
Right. I think you can certainly read it that way. I was thinking it was just more like what it was, like a miscarriage and just like childcare in general. And
well, she said like, multiple times she did not have a miscarriage.
Yeah, but no, I thought it was like more of a parallel for that than like I know she didn't, but yeah, actually that line makes me think is more leans towards abortion. But I also thought just like old-fashioned mentality and like old generations making choices about like childcare can just lead to disastrous things, like
especially the church making decisions about childcare.
Yes, exactly. I took it more as that generality, like you can put that in an abortion lens or just general childcare in general.
And let's not forget it was a pregnancy out of wedlock.
Oh, true. Yeah. Well,
it's like Bev was not happy with.
If you're doing religious horror, it's in all the big ones. All the big ones have men making choices about a woman's body. Rosemary's Baby, fucking 2 that came out last year, Immaculate and the First Omen, The Omen,
Frankenstein,
of course, we can't forget that.
That is an abortion metaphor, Frankenstein.
Is it really?
Yeah, I think Mary Shelley got an abortion. I'm reading it currently, but like someone was talking to me about it. Like I think it's a parallel, or she had a miscarriage. I can't really remember. It's not like life and what it's worth, and can we create life and can we take it away? I don't know.
Interesting.
I need give me like a month. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
I'll read the book.
All right, so let's go ahead. I mean, I guess we'll rate this bad boy. I was tempted, like, do we rate it? Yeah, fuck it, we'll rate it. Figure out how you rate things and rate Midnight Monologue from Mike the Monologue Flanagan 1 through 5. What are you gonna give it, Eric?
I'll probably give it a 4. Like I've definitely on my first watch gave it a 5, but I think I'm now, we was discussing it. It's not perfect, but it's like as far as like a mini series goes, it's perfectly paced, especially for all the monologues it has, and it's a great. It leaves you thinking, and the fact doesn't like kind of like what you're saying makes all this commentary, but doesn't like take a side or like bash you over the head with it. It's just a great show. So yeah, 4 out of 5.
I would say E says it's a perfect show. 5 out of 5 from E. SoCal Dan, Midnight Mass, 5. And I could be like, it's one of those things. Doing this show in some ways has ruined movies and TV shows for me. It really does. You become hypercritical, and it's like I'm focusing a lot. That's why there's so many times you'll watch someone reviewing something on YouTube. It's like, Jesus Christ, do you even like horror? Do you even like comics? It's like it can kind of fucking ruin it for you. But yeah, what I wanted to say is I was never like, Jesus fucking Christ. I was like, oh my God, like this monologue is ridiculous, but it wasn't like ruining anything for me. I still loved all of it. I was just like almost laughing at points that were so silly. That's all it was. But Peter, what do you give it? Eric gave it a 4 out of 5.
I'm gonna give it a 4.5 out of 5. Yeah, absolutely love it. It gets better every time you watch it. Like you pick up more things. So the conversation it starts are amazing, and it's really just like thought-provoking. Agreed with what you said about the monologues. It's not like I'm complaining about them, but it's just like, wow, another one. However, each one has its purpose. Like it does move a character's story along every time they monologue. I don't think there are many that did not do that.
Right. There's none that just to preach. It is something that has something. Yeah, it fits. It's not completely out of nowhere. This is a random ass thing to mention, but I'm looking through my notes, and one cool ass thing that I really liked that we didn't mention was when Sarah, the doctor, Pruitt's daughter, when she spits that blood out.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I thought that was like something that could have been in so many vampire movies before this. But as far as I know, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I've never seen that before. That was, to me, a really, really cool moment. Like
incredibly strong.
Yeah, that was great. She was really good too, just in general. Yeah, her character, her performance. Yeah. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, I guess that's what I had to say. I'm right there with you, Eric, man. I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. Would highly recommend it. Pretty much anybody that's into horror, anybody that's into vampires, Mike Flanagan, or horror TV. It's one of the best ones. It really is. There's not too many. I need to watch the rest of his shit so I can really know how I feel about his career as a whole or what he's done with these series. But I would say it doesn't compare to Hill House for me. And I really tried hard not to. because as far as it, like Hill House is fucking scary at times.
Yeah.
And I feel like this had a few jump scares, but
It's
there's
not really scary.
it's way more drama.
Hill
way
House,
more,
Hill House
Eerie.
is scarier. Midnight Mass is deeper.
right? 100%. I agree. For sure. Midnight Mass, more adults are good. Less, you know what I mean? I don't think many 10-year-olds are going to love Midnight Mass,
Yeah.
but they're going to get a lot more out of Hill House. At least
Yeah.
the first half of it. Hill House is really scary for the first few episodes. But all right, Eric's getting tired. We better wrap this bitch up.
Sorry. I'm so
The sun-
sleep deprived.
Sun's getting real low.
Oh, God. All right, so a 4 for me, a 4 for Eric, a 4.5 from, what is your name? Crockpot Pete from Crockpot Pete. You guys in the chat popping in today, appreciate you. Christina, Kenneth, Johnny, Recap, Sal, 9-panel grid, easy. SoCal Dan. I love saying that guy's name. I don't know why. I fucking like saying his name.
It's fun.
But
SoCal Dan. Ooh,
he says, this is the horrors of regular people. Bev Keane is the most horrific person on television. I agree.
Yeah.
And again, I think she's the best version of that character that's
Yeah.
ever existed. She's Peter, you realize who she was, right? In Hill House?
Yeah. She's the ex-wife of
Yeah.
the oldest son, right? Yeah.
She plays a tiny little role, but
Yeah.
she had a
she
great
would be a wife, not a current wife.
Very similar to American Horror Story, where like in the first season, this one actor has a very small role, and then the second season, they give her like the crazy nurse at the asylum.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, very similar.
She's so good.
Very.
And she was in the little bit that she had in Hill House. I think it's like the final episode. She had a monologue in that was fantastic. She's awesome. She's the one that I really do. You know, is she in House of Usher?
She's in House of Usher too. Yeah, she's married to Sturge in House of Usher.
Sturge. All right.
We meet again, Sturge, in this House of Usher. Now let us do battle.
That's what I think that should.
What am I doing? Fright Night. This is what we're doing as Fright Fest, or excuse me, as a Fang Fest 2025 rolls on. Fright Night 1985 doing on Thursday, and then next Sunday 1:00 Central Time, again Rockin' Robbie's going to join me talking Buffy the Vampire Slayer, season 5 episode 1. It's a one shot, it's a standalone episode for the most part, I think so go watch it, come hang out and join the conversation. Awesome. Again, talking Buffy in general, we'll talk vamps in general and Dracula in general. Yeah, and this is what we've been doing, man. Fang Fest, babe. We've done Nosferatu, Dracula vs. Dracula, Martin last week. We just did Midnight Mass. Again, Fright Night. And then we got one more week after that. Let the Right One In. I haven't seen either of them for the last week. Let the Right One In.
Where's Mom Has a Date with a Vampire on here?
I couldn't squeeze it in, man.
Where's Panicula?
I had 5 weeks. There's so many I wanted to do. Interview with the Vampire. We're doing Fang Fest and didn't do Lost Boys. That's like, you know what I mean? That's like the first one a lot of people would grab for, but I just couldn't get it in. But all right, I appreciate the shit out of you guys. Y'all are the best. You guys in the chat, you're even better. Don't tell them, but you're even better. I appreciate you. All right, I'll see you guys next Thursday.
Children of the night. What music they make.
I have a puppy dog. Bye, everybody. We'll see you next time.